Good day and welcome to the professors here at beautiful McMurry University in Abilene, Texas. I'm Paul Fabrizio, and we're going to go around the room and introduce everybody. So to my right.
Hi, I'm Christopher Bartlett. I'm filling in for Don Frazier, who couldn't be here today.
Okay, now, who's Christopher Bartlett?
I'm a McMurry graduate just recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to say that. That's important. And Don Frazier, of course, is our regular co-host on this show.
Right.
Okay, and then the guy in yellow.
I'm Dr. Joel Brant. I'm a biologist here at McMurry University.
And you're our special guest today.
I'm the special guest today, but I don't have the white headphones.
No, for some reason the white headphones had been tossed in the dustbin of history or something like that.
Well, we tried to bring the white headphones back yesterday, but she said she couldn't hear out of them. So,
well, and that happens. Headphones fail.
You know, I could during the break. I can switch them up for you if you want to wear the coveted headphones. It's great by me. Yeah,
it's fine. I'm good with the black. It's all
right.
good.
Okay, all right.
Oh, and that other voice you heard, of course, is Scott.
The engineer.
The engineer, the guy with no last name. Just something about it. And he quickly pulls out his pen and starts writing furiously. I don't know what that means. Anyway, our guest, as we said, is Dr. Joel Brant, Professor of Biology here at McMurry University. And we hope eventually to start talking about DNA. But before that, we always have our guests introduce themselves, tell a little bit about themselves, where they're from, what brought them to McMurry.
Okay.
So, who are you?
Well, I'm.
How do you like that?
Yeah, that's always fun. Generally, I claim that I'm from Kansas. I'm from Wichita, Kansas. That's where I grew up. That's where I did most of my high school and middle school and all that good stuff. But I did move to Abilene when I was in high school, so I graduated from a local high school, Cooper High. And then from then on, I've been a local boy. I did my undergraduate at Abilene Christian. I did my master's degree at Angelo State, and then got my PhD at Texas Tech. So within about a 3-hour range, I've been in this area for most of my life. Now, and then I got here right after Texas Tech.
Now, I know something about you.
Uh-oh.
You say you're a local boy, but which NFL team do you like?
Oh, I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan because I grew up in Wichita, Kansas. And the Chiefs are awesome. By the way, one of their players just got a medical degree. Awesome.
Just got a medical degree?
A medical degree. He's an MD now. I don't remember his name. I saw it.
But he's on the Chiefs.
He's a defensive back on the Chiefs.
Okay, I guess he's not worried about concussions or something like that.
Maybe he doesn't have a very good medical degree.
Okay. Okay.
But no, I claim Kansas. That's where most of my formative years happened, which is why my accent is not quite Texas. But
I've never noticed.
But I have been in Texas for the largest portion of my life.
Well, kudos for graduating from Cooper.
Yeah.
I'm a fellow Cooper graduate, so.
Cooper was a good school.
Okay. So you got a PhD in
biology, but my specialty is ecology and specifically mammalogy, which is the study of mammals.
Okay, now you're going to have to explain something to us.
Yes.
What is the difference between ecology and biology?
Well, ecology is a subset of biology, rather like Americanism is a subset of political science. Ecology is all about how do organisms interact with their environment and with each other. So when I talk about ecology, I'm going to look at the mammals that I'm working on, and I'm going to ask, how are they interacting with each other? How are they interacting with other species of mammals? How are they interacting with other species of animal, plant, bacteria, and protist and fungi? That is really what I'm looking at, is how do they all interact together.
So what are you most interested in then?
Really?
I mean, individual mammals, or their fit into the larger world?
I'm more interested in their fit into the larger world. A subdiscipline of mammalogy and ecology is what we call community ecology, which is how do different species interact.
So it's like yesterday we interviewed Dr. Jory Seacrest. So it's like sociology. She's a sociologist, like sociology for animals.
Kind of.
Okay, I don't know how to respond to kind of. What do you mean by that?
Well,
I mean, we talking about their relationships with each other on a personal basis?
Some of it is behavioral.
Okay.
Are they aggressive? Are they commensal? Do they work together? Do they work against each other? Are they predator-prey interactions? So that is kind of. the sociology aspect. We do some population demographics, so I can talk about age classes, I can talk about pre-reproductive, post-reproductive, that sort of thing. And so that would fall under what we in academia call sociology, if we're talking about humans. The reason I say kind of is the biological definition of a community and the sociological definition of a community are slightly different. We don't, from biology standpoint, I don't live in the Abilene community. I live in the Abilene population. Populations are the same species. Communities are different species. And so humans are one species.
And Scott has a question there.
I do.
Well, he raised his
You
pencil.
had this look of quizzlement. Is it quizzlement a word?
We'll make it a word.
We'll make it a word.
No, that's very interesting that we, it's a community. Yeah, that's
the
that's
different
interesting.
disciplines sometimes define things slightly differently. And so when I hear on the news, on your radio show, on all kinds of different places, they talk about the Abilene community, I'm always wondering, what are we doing for the dogs, cats, and cockroaches of Abilene?
And
that is not what they are talking about.
I assure you that's not what we're talking about.
So that's just not what they mean. And so that's why I say kind of, is that I'm focusing on many different species and how they interact with each other, whereas most sociologists and psychologists are focusing on just humans.
Does anybody focus on individual animal behavior? So animal psychology.
There are animal psychologists out there. They tend to be less focused on wildlife populations and more focused on, for lack of a better word, the pet population. But yeah,
Okay.
there are.
Are they taken seriously by those of you in the rest of the scientific community?
That's an awfully loaded question, Paul. This is going to be broadcast out across the world. Some of them, yes. Some of them, no. There are some legitimate approaches and some legitimate psychological questions that we can ask for individual species or individual populations. I don't think we ever, lay a rat out on a couch and say, "How are you feeling today?"
Okay.
I don't know how you respond.
How do you know what it says?
Now, in the pet population, in the pet world, that is a big money business. Is why is a dog or a cat behaving the way it is? Just watch Saturday morning on any TV show, and you'll see pet psychologists.
Is that something you ever thought about doing?
Not at all.
Okay.
I'm not much of a behavioralist. I'm much more about predator-prey interactions, population biology.
The interesting stuff.
Yeah. And competition. So, how are they competing for resources?
Okay. So many different thoughts, and I'm not sure quite where I want to go. I have heard it described that nature is really bloody. That
Red in Tooth and Claw, yeah.
Okay.
Lord Tennyson. That's a poem from Lord Tennyson.
Okay.
Nature, red in Tooth and Claw.
Is that true?
It is the niceties that many of us expect when we go out into the natural world and think, oh, everything's all sweet and cuddly. For the most part, it's all about eat or be eaten. We have to get resources. We need water, shelter, food, gases. We need these resources for our own survival and for reproduction. And I have to get them. If you want them, we're going to compete. We're going to fight. One of us is going to win. I will tell you that we can have those real friendly, or what I call friendly relationships between species when there's an abundance of resources, when the competition coefficient is really low. But when we start to get overpopulated, when we start to have a lot of people, a lot of individuals, and not a lot of resources, it becomes a very cutthroat environment. We have something called the carrying capacity, which is how many individuals can be supported by the resources in the environment.
And what did you call that?
I call that the carrying capacity.
The carrying capacity.
Yeah. How many individuals can the environment carry? Yeah. And it's when you get close to that carrying capacity, there's not a lot of wiggle room. And so it does get awfully cutthroat. The other aspect is when we talk about blood and tooth, the very act of predation. You are
predation,
consuming another animal.
Okay.
I
what
think
a great word, predation.
I think of predation as also consuming other plants as well, other life. But usually when we talk about the word predator, we're talking about things that are eating animals.
Okay.
And turns out animals bleed. And so when you bite into them, things get bloody.
Okay. This brings to mind, we just have less than a minute left, the story that came out last week or the week before about the cougar that killed someone in Washington. And apparently the cougar was emaciated.
Oh, yeah.
And it's only the second killing by a cougar in 100 years.
Yeah, well, cougars don't often kill humans. They don't want to be associated or near humans. But as we encroach into their territory and make it harder for them to get the resources they need, they will start to hunt us. They're not that big. They're not very good at hunting humans, but they can kill you. And in this case, they actually killed a cyclist in Washington. Actually attacked one and then killed the other.
Okay, we got to take a break. We will be back.
Bear Leader Tours. Where will Bear Leader Tours take you? Everywhere. Paris. Bruges. Trier. Battlefields. Pearl Harbor. Pacific Beaches. New Orleans. Join the adventure. www.mcwhinney.org.
This portion of the show is reserved for advertisements. If you are interested in filling this portion with ads for your business, please call 325-793-4686 or email director@tfhcc.com. This portion of the show is reserved for advertisements. If you are interested in filling this portion with ads for your business, please call 325-793-4686 or email director@tfhcc.com. This portion of the show is reserved for advertisements. If you are interested in filling this portion with ads for your business, please call 325-793-4686 or email director@tfhcc.com. This portion of the show is reserved for advertisements. If you are interested in filling this portion with ads for your business, please call 325-793-4686 or email director@tfhcc.com. This portion of the show is reserved for advertisements. If you are interested in filling this portion with ads for your business, please call 325-793-4686 or email director@tfhcc.com.
And we're back, and this is Paul Fabrizio of the Professors here at McMurry University in beautiful Abilene, Texas, where the temperature today is supposed to be 103 degrees.
Triple digits in May.
Triple digits in May.
Lovely.
Lovely, lovely, lovely.
It is hot.
And again, let's go around the table. Chris Bartlett,
Yes, sir.
Dr. Joel Brant,
Dr. Joel Brant.
and the guy with no last name, Scott the engineer.
That's me.
Yeah, I don't know why we do that, but
Is it tough going through life without a last name?
You know, it hasn't affected me a whole lot yet.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
do you
well,
know
that's
who
good.
else doesn't have a last name?
Prince.
Yeah,
Madonna. Adele.
Yeah, famous people like Beyonce.
Yeah.
The Prince of Queen of England. What's her last name?
Yeah, I couldn't
Elizabeth?
tell you.
Yeah,
She actually has a last name. We just don't ever use it.
Windsor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a last name, I'm sure. We just don't ever use it.
It's just the way it happens.
Just the way it is.
Scott the
You
engineer.
named me, so I don't know what to tell you.
Okay. Now, we were talking before the break about cougars.
Mm-hmm.
And
The animal, yes.
yes,
Well-
as opposed to the Cooper Cougars, where
Which
you
is also
graduated.
based on the animal.
Yeah, which is where you graduated and where Scott the engineer graduated too.
Yep.
But you had a lesson for us based on what took place in the state of Washington, about a week or two ago?
About a week or two
where
ago,
somebody got killed by a cougar.
As a human population, and this is happening especially on the West Coast, but it's also happening here in Texas and anywhere where mountain lions actually do exist, is that as the population expands, we are moving more and more into the cougar's natural habitat, which makes it harder for the cougar to get the resources it needs for its survival. So food, water, shelter, that sort of thing. And if it can't get those, it's going to start having problems with its own energy demands. And so it's going to be a little more starved, a little more hungry, a little more emaciated. And as that happens, it's going to start to look for what we think of as non-traditional prey items. Cougars.
Non-traditional prey.
Non-traditional.
A human.
Alternative, yeah. Cougars, also known as pumas, also known as mountain lions.
Jaguars?
No, that's a whole other thing. But cougars, they go after, for the most part, white-tailed deer, bunny rabbits, most native animals. The cougar is the apex predator. It's up there with grizzly bears. If we are limiting their access to those things, it's going to start going after alternative prey sources, which could include humans, more likely includes pets. So dogs, cats, that sort of thing. But if it includes humans, as we are in their environment and doing things that we don't recognize are prey-like, the cougar is going to react and it's going to predate on us. A lot of cougar attacks happen to joggers or cyclists in the morning. They just you don't recognize that you're in cougar habitat, the cougar's above you, and it pounces on you. The key to surviving a cougar attack is to, number one, fight for your life. Beat that cat off of you.
Try to find an eyeball.
Trying to find an eyeball or any soft thing. The other thing is, before it attacks you, if you see it before it gets to you, make yourself look like not prey. Make yourself bigger, make a lot of noise, make it think twice about coming after you. What happened in the Washington situation is two cyclists were riding their bikes, and apparently the cougar jumped on one of them.
Okay.
Knocked him to the ground, and actually had his head in the cougar's mouth. I mean, it was going after this guy. And his friend, I don't know what happened to his bike, but his friend basically started running away. And the cougar recognized that as prey activity and chased him and actually killed him, not the initial person that was attacked. The initial person was on the side of the road and was able to survive.
So you're saying the lesson from this is...
Don't run.
Don't run, but rather fight.
Fight, make yourself look bigger.
Fly.
So the guy whose head was in the cougar's mouth...
Survived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you guys ever dealt with house cats, little bitty cats that you have in your house?
Yes.
What do you mean dealt
several
with them?
times.
Well,
Yes,
you kind of
we have
wrestle.
one.
You kind of wrestle with them. You kind of.
And then they get
bat them around.
vicious. and
What do they do when they're attacking your arm?
They
Usually,
rip
what
at
they'll
the-
do is they'll grab the arm with their forelimbs and then use their back limbs to rake down the bottom, right?
Yes.
And what they'll do is they'll actually disembowel you if the cat is big enough. Now, a little bitty house cat's not that big a deal, but a mountain lion, they'll do the exact same thing, and they will literally rip right through here and just basically disembowel you. So, by the way, when you're fighting the cat, don't ever let his back legs get going.
So what do? Step on them? Tie them up? I mean...
Yeah, you fight them, you punch them, you try. You're going to get scratched. It's going to be bad, but fight that animal. Get away. Don't run.
Get away, but don't run. So you walk calmly away from it?
You can walk in a guarded manner or get with a group of friends. If it's just you, don't run. Face the animal, but you can start to back away. You can start to move in a particular direction.
Do you talk to it real loud and aggressively?
You can. I don't know if you want to say, "How was your day?" But you can say, "Get away!" Don't. No. You can yell at it, and you do want to yell at it. No, for two reasons. It's going to startle him a little bit, but also other people might be around that will hear you and can come to your aid. Yeah, because the more individuals that are there, the less likely that mountain lion or that cougar is going to attack. By the way, this holds true for bears as well. Black bears especially. Grizzly bears are the ones that, if you have to, you can play dead, because they will just stuff you under a log and come back for you later. Now, by the time you get to being under the log, you're in pretty bad shape. But you might survive that way. Black bears will eat dead animals, will eat carrion. And so don't play dead with a black bear. Fight that black bear. fight for your life because he will eat you just because.
Because and at the mountain lion, he's going to do the same thing
Right.
with you too. He's going to bury you and come back and eat on you later too.
Isn't this a pleasant conversation today?
Very informative.
Yes.
Well, he's talking about the grizzly bear, and if you're in Colorado, that's gotten bad. They have all of a sudden started recognizing a rifle shot as a dinner bell.
Yep.
So now you have to even be more aware of your surroundings. It is usually good to hunt with either your guide or have somebody else with you. That way, while you're processing your animal or whatever you have to do, somebody's watching out for Mr. Bear to come over.
Right. And black bears are recognizing the same thing.
Yes.
We are having an effect on the behavior of animals. And we're changing some of their behaviors because they're looking for the food just like we are. And they are getting used to some of our noises so that they don't react the same way that you would expect them to react. You'd expect whenever you hear a rifle shot or a gunshot for all the wildlife in the area to run away. But sometimes they'll actually come to if they're looking to scavenge.
Well, this is really interesting.
Now, in Texas, we don't have to worry about the grizzly bears. In this part of Texas, we don't worry about black bears. We got rid of them, 1880, 1890.
Oh, so there's none here at all.
No black bears in this part. If you go down to the village, if you talk to some of the historians, there are records from Elm Creek, but not currently.
Yeah, there was
Interesting.
there was actually a letter from a guy that wrote back to Grant when Fort Fannin was through here that said
You're talking about President Grant.
No,
Ulysses.
Ulysses S. Grant when he was president?
I'm sorry, I said Grant. I didn't mean to say Grant. I meant to say Lee. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Robert,
okay.
Yeah.
Robert Lee.
Wrote back and said the deer, antelope, and bear are abundant in this part of Texas when they were coming through. The grass
Here around
bear.
Alabama.
Oh, yeah. Well,
And two of those three are no longer here.
Yeah.
We got a lot of deer, though.
We got a lot of deer, but no antelope and no black bear.
Okay, wow. Now, we began this segment with the idea that Chris Bartlett was going to ask you a question, but here we are at the end of the segment, and Chris Bartlett hasn't asked that question yet.
It's been nice, though.
Yeah, so we're going to get him at the very beginning of the next segment when we return in mere 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll be back.
When you support McMurry History Education Group, you also support the many young workers who operate and maintain the company's digital operations. These are dedicated university students who handle many things such as filming, recording, and editing content for McMurry, as well as cultivate the layout and structure of McMurry's various websites, including its associated channel on YouTube. We are a nonprofit organization that exists from donations from interested persons and history enthusiasts alike. Donations enable our students to obtain a higher education, job training, and career bolstering skills. If you would like to donate, please visit us at www.mcmurry.org and click on our About Us tab to learn more.
This portion of the show is reserved for advertisements. If you are interested in filling this portion with ads for your business, please call 325-793-4686 or email director@tfhcc.com. This portion of the show is reserved for advertisements. If you are interested in filling this portion with ads for your business, please call 325-793-4686 or email director@tfhcc.com. This portion of the show is reserved for advertisements. If you are interested in filling this portion with ads for your business, please call 325-793-4686 or email director@tfhcc.com. This portion of the show is reserved for advertisements. If you are interested in filling this portion with ads for your business, please call 325-793-4686 or email director@tfhcc.com. This portion of the show is reserved for advertisements. If you are interested in filling this portion with ads for your business, please call 325-793-4686 or email director@tfhcc.com. tfhcc.com. And we're back to the professors. I'm Christopher Bartlett, filling in for Don Frazier today. Sitting to my left is
Paul Fabrizio.
Yeah.
Who am I?
I forget his name too.
No. I wanted him to say it. To my right is
Dr. Joel Brant.
nice, and to his right is Scott the
Got the
engineer.
engineer. I hope I'm nice too. I don't know about him for sure, but yeah.
Nice.
Okay, Chris, you're the co-host today,
Right.
and you have a question you want to ask Dr. Brant, our guest.
Yeah, sure. So I don't know much about DNA, but all that I know really from DNA is what's been talked about in video games. It's a really big subject in video games. Either
Seriously?
it's cloning, yeah. But one certain video game series has you going back, like you have your ancestors' memory in your DNA,
Okay.
which I don't know if I believe that, but is that possible?
No.
No.
No,
Good.
that's a
Glad I was
fun idea that you have somehow encoded in your genetic code the memories of your ancestors. No, not at all. No way. No, that doesn't happen. That's not how genetics works. I've seen that in a lot of different science fiction stories. I've not seen it in the video game world, but I've seen it in sci-fi and Star Trek and that sort of stuff. And it's a wonderful idea that you can somehow mine through your genetic code the memories of. What you can find is not the memories of, but you might find how the actions of your ancestors have affected the genetic code that has been passed to you. So, for instance, if you went through, I don't know if sometime in the distant past we went through a period of drought, and whichever ancestors happen to have the best ability to scrounge or survive long periods of times with little food, there is some variation in the population about how long you can survive without food. Those who can survive the longest are going to pass on their genes more than those who don't, and so you might find that. One of the fun things we have found in recent years, last 5 years or so, is this concept of epigenetics. And epigenetics is that events that happened in somebody's lifetime can actually affect their genetic code, which can then possibly be passed on to their offspring. Specifically, it has to do with the length of, there's a sequence of DNA on the end of chromosomes called telomeres. And really, we always thought they were just junk, but it turns out they get longer. And to some degree, they get longer when periods of stress are involved. And so we can actually measure how long the telomeres are and get a sense of how much stress that individual has gone through.
Oh my gosh, mine are going to be like 10 foot long.
When I say stress, usually it's a starvation, it's drought, it's biological stress, not what you and I would think of as stress, as in, oh, I've got a deadline, I've got to write this paper or something. But it does have some effect on that. But when we talk about genetic memory, it's a good idea. I like it, but no, it's not biologically real at all.
So what you're saying is that environment can influence your
Genetic
genes?
code. Yes, it can. There's two ways that it can. Environment can affect your gene in that epigenetic way that I just talked about by affecting turning on or turning off certain genes that are in your body, or the lengthening the chromosomes and what we call telomeres.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to argue that does very little for you. But it's interesting that I can pass on some of that if early on I have a child, and then after I have the stress, I have a second child. That second child is going to have a slightly different telomere length based on this epigenetic concept, which is really cool. As a population, genes or the gene pool is dramatically affected by all the environment that's out here. And it's based on how well do you get your resources. As the environment changes, are you able to get resources or not? And if you are, you're able to reproduce, i.e. contribute to the gene pool. If you're not able to get the resources, you're not able to contribute to the gene pool. And so this is the crux of natural selection and evolutionary science, is who gets to have babies and who doesn't. And so the more that you have babies, the more contribution you're making, the more effect you're having on the gene pool. And so environment definitely affects that. but it doesn't affect you that way. Your genetics don't change in your lifetime. But with epigenetics, we're finding that, yeah, some of your genetics do change within your lifetime, which is
But it
really
doesn't
cool.
affect you. It affects the future.
Well, it does affect you because you have longer telomeres. That, to some degree, that's going to affect your aging and the ability of your cell machinery to copy your DNA. And so it does have effects on you. But it can also, your genes, obviously, when you pass them on to your offspring, affects them as well. Yeah, but the whole genetic memory thing, that's a great, I love hearing about that. It's a fun little rabbit trail to go down in science fiction, but it's the fiction part of science fiction.
Right. Nice.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you for answering.
You're welcome.
other questions?
Nope. That's the only one question I have.
Listen, I was invited to talk about DNA, and that's the first DNA question we've had, which is cool.
Yeah.
And I'm really not a DNA guy. This is what we've been talking about is way more in my bailiwick.
And he was the one who asked that question. He was the one who invited you. So,
Yeah.
so it was what he wanted to know.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we got 5 minutes, and it's like, where do I go now?
Well,
DNA? Go ahead.
Well, we had that interesting discussion during the commercial break about humans, in your words, being pansies. So we could talk about that.
Well, it's the whole concept of predation, and we talked about as we move into the mountain lion range.
Okay,
or the bear range.
remind us predation. What's that mean?
Predation is when animals eat other animals. I tend to think of predation as when one organism consumes another, but we tend to think of it as an animal on animal.
So when I eat a hamburger,
When you eat a hamburger, you are predating on a cow, yes. But when a mountain lion eats a deer or a bunny rabbit, he reaches out, grabs it, and eats it. That is predation. And humans are part of the natural world. We tend not to think that we are, but we are. We just have a really good way, because of our technology, because of our tool use, we have a really good method of shaping the environment around us so that we don't experience a lot of the natural part of the natural world. But the reality is we are. And if I strip all that technology away, humans are really poor competitors. We're really poor predators. We could get hurt really easily. I said we're pansies.
Okay, what do you mean we get hurt really easily?
Well, think about it, and this is where we're going to have to do a thought experiment, and please only use yourself. Don't think of your colleagues.
Okay.
Imagine yourself naked in the woods.
Oh, sort of like that TV show.
Like that
Naked
TV
and
show.
Afraid, yeah.
But imagine yourself naked in the woods, and you have to survive. It becomes a lot more difficult. And without technology, and I mean even simple technology like using sticks, we humans are poor at truly surviving in many of the environments that we are, and we make easy prey. We don't have sharp claws. We don't have sharp teeth. We make easy prey for most of the predators that are out there. And so bear, lions, tigers, depending on what part of the world you're in, snakes, all these things can predate on us. Now, snakes don't tend to predate on us. They just tend to kill us by biting us. But
And then they don't eat us?
no, we're too big.
Oh, okay.
And that snakes can't really pull off chunks. But like lions, African lions, or even Indian lions, all of them predate on humans. They can be man-eaters. Tigers predate on humans. We are very poor at defending ourselves without technology. Now, with technology, spears, swords, sticks, we are really good at fighting them off. So good, in fact, that we had, if you look back in the paleontological record over the last 20,000 years, over the last 150,000 years, you can start to find, outside of Africa, we start to see the disappearance of large animals. So like mammoths and giant ground sloths and dire wolves and all those things. Things that used to be in this area 20,000 years ago are no longer here. And it's because about 15,000 years ago, humans showed up in this part of the world. And we had our spears and our sticks, and we went after these big things and literally hunted them to extinction. And 10,000 years ago, in a cave near Wichita Falls, Texas, there was a thing called the giant ground sloth. This was a thing, a sloth the size of a grizzly bear. It wasn't exactly vicious, but it was a good-sized thing. We knew it was here. It's no longer here in Texas. Why? Because humans, with their sticks and their pointy things, killed it. We killed it for food. Now then, had we not had our sticks and pointy things, I'm not very good at digging into animals with just my little fingers here. It gets tough. So technology is what makes humans the master predator on this earth. Without our technology, as in the case of the mountain lion in Washington, we don't really stand much of a chance. Now, again, you can fight that mountain lion off, but
Yeah.
got to use your hands.
But it wouldn't be a fair fight.
It wouldn't be fair because they are much more adaptive to that.
Right.
We are not.
Now, we're going to take a break in 30 seconds, but when we talk about technology, we're not talking about cell phones.
No, I'm talking about
We're
spears.
talking
I'm talking about
basic
sticks. I'm talking about nets, little things. I mean, prehistoric technology. Now, again, cell phones and that stuff has helped recently.
but they aren't useful in trying to fight off a cougar. Unless you call 911. Okay, we got to take a break. We'll be back for our final segment.
History has become one of the most fought-over battlegrounds in terms of shifting people's views and opinions about their country. In response to this, we have decided to launch a website called Go To History that will become your home for clear-eyed history content. Our objective is to put history out there, free of agendas, and allow you, the viewers, to decide what you believe and decide how to interpret this information. With experienced professors such as Dr. Don Frazier and Dr. Stephen Hardin teaching courses and creating agenda-free content for students and just plain history enthusiasts, the content of Go To History is vastly informative and unbiased.
History people, Phil Collins here. I am just giving a shout out to a couple of guys that you're going to be hearing from. And they're good friends of mine, but they're also incredibly knowledgeable historians. Dr. Donald Frazier and Dr. Stephen Hardin. Both great friends of mine, both helped me out with my book on the Alamo. And two guys, if you don't know much about history, these are the first two guys you should go to. Okay, what they don't know isn't worth knowing. Don Frazier, Steve Hardin, I hope you enjoy their presentations.
My name is Devin Williams, a history major at McMurry University, and I love the layout of the Go To website. I mean, it is singularly built from the ground up with user convenience in mind. Every study available is within a single Courses tab, with each lesson having a single page for each of its individual videos, text, visuals, and quizzes, all at easy grasp. This is most definitely history made simple.
Please log on to www.gotohistory.com. This portion of the show is reserved for advertisements. If you are interested in filling this portion with ads for your business, please call 325-793-4686 or email director@tfhcc.com.
And we're back. And this is Paul Fabrizio and gang. Just a lot of people here. Of the professors at McMurry University in beautiful Abilene, Texas. And we're delighted again. We're going to introduce everybody. Chris Bartlett, Joel Brant, and Scott, with no last name, the engineer. Okay, we'll just call you that.
Just call me Cool of the gang.
Okay. Okay. Now, Dr. Brant, as our guest, all the attention is focused on you right now.
Which is how I like it.
Yes. So I got to ask, we talked about DNA. Before the break, we're talking a little bit about...
how humans are pansies, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. So that all leads to, of course, movies like Jurassic Park.
Ah, yes, that's a great one.
And last night, my wife and I were watching a little bit of TV, and there was a commercial for the new Jurassic Park movie that's coming out, and my wife pointed at the screen and said, I want to go to that. And being a good husband, I said, I'll take you. And so, is there any truth to any of this Jurassic Park stuff?
Well,
I mean, have you seen the movies?
I've seen all the movies. I do enjoy them, even though I don't like the thrill part of the thrillers. I don't like the jump scares. But actually looking at the science and looking at dinosaurs running around, that's just really cool. I did not like the Jurassic World movie only because I thought they went too far with the whole, we're going to splice a bunch of dinosaurs together and make this really bad one and think it's a good idea. And by the way, they're doing that again in the second one. It's even worse. But
wow.
But
the
Jeff
idea,
Goldblum is going to make an appearance.
Jeff Goldblum is coming back.
That
yeah.
will make it better, right?
That will make it better, although he didn't make Thor Ragnarok better. The idea, the science behind it is we do have the ability to, in a drop of blood, in a cell, a hair follicle, we can extract DNA from those cells that have all the DNA in your body. We copy it for each cell, so you have a complete copy in every cell. And I can take that copy, I can take that cell, extract the DNA, amplify it, and learn things from it by doing the genome sequencing, and possibly even clone another Paul Fabrizio. We don't want that.
No, we sure don't want that.
I could do that. But you are a living thing.
Thank you.
Currently living. When we start talking about some of the older things, it gets a lot more complicated. Even with things that we are familiar with. So there's an effort right now to sequence the mammoth DNA, the mammoth genome,
Yes.
and then bring them back. It's something that we call the de-extinction, where we take something that's extinct and make it not extinct again.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is we're running into the problem of, number one, we don't know exactly what the genome is supposed to be, so we're splicing it with elephant genome, elephant DNA. Number two, we don't know about the gestation period. There are no female mammoths out there. It's not like they're eggs like the dinosaurs are. So how do we actually birth a mammoth? And they're working on that, but there's some technical difficulties. Now, a
I
mammoth...
would argue those are big difficulties.
The mammoth is a relatively recent thing. There's a lot of evidence that mammoths and humans coexisted, even in historical times, like 7,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago.
That recent.
That recent. When I talk about humans driving species extinct, mammoths are one of the ones that we poked holes in and caused them to go away. But that's a relatively recent thing. That's 10,000 years. Dinosaurs went extinct 65 million years ago. The idea that we could find a drop of blood or a hair follicle that still has viable DNA in it, that we could then sequence and clone a dinosaur from, that's the fiction part of science fiction. It's really cool, but not ever going to happen. More recent stuff, mammoths. One of the big things we're doing with de-extinction is things that have been driven extinct in the last 100 years. So like the Tasmanian tiger, the thylacine, the dodo.
I was going to bring that up. The Dodo Bird.
These are things that we have driven extinct in the last 100 to 200 years. The passenger pigeon, the Carolina parakeet. These are all things that we know when they went extinct because we documented it. The last one was in the zoo. We know when that happened. It is much more likely that we're going to be able to sequence that DNA and clone them and bring them back. The whole concept of dinosaurs, it is great for books. Michael Crichton hit on a great seller. The movies have done wonderful, and it's just fun to look on the TV screen and see dinosaurs run around with people there. But it is the fiction part. We're not going to be able to do that.
Okay, now you use the word we're more likely to do it with something that recently went extinct.
Yes.
Do you want to give a percentage?
No.
Likely?
No.
I mean, is it 10% or is it 90%?
No, more likely is a very subjective term. I did that on purpose.
I know that, and I'm pushing you on it.
And I don't know how much more likely it is. But if the chances of a dinosaur are 0, a 1% chance is more likely.
So, but, okay. Alligators, crocodiles.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we use that? Because they've been here since the mammoth or before.
Well, crocodiles, the whole crocodilidae and alligators have been around since the dinosaur age. So their genetic code is similar, but now you're starting to talk about things that are actually very distantly related from the dinosaurs. It would be like me saying I'm going to clone a human from a lemur.
Okay.
And so it's just not the same.
Okay.
You're not going to get a human, just like you're not going to get a dinosaur. My favorite quote, I don't know if we have time, my favorite quote
Sure, 2
from
minutes.
the Jurassic World when they said, how could you do this? This was stupid. Why did you do this? The scientists said these were never dinosaurs. These were what we thought dinosaurs were, because they use all kinds of other DNA to splice in to make it do things, to make it work. Even from the first movie, from the book, they said they used amphibian DNA to help fill the gaps.
That was my favorite quote.
That was my favorite quote from the movie. As a scientist, I said, you're right. And then I got to enjoy the rest of the movie by going, I can suspend disbelief now.
So if we're going to, let's use the dodo bird.
Yep.
How would you reconstruct it? How would you bring it back?
Well, we have tissue specimens from the dodo. We have preserved specimens that are in museums right now, in the British Museum. I can get the DNA from that feather follicle and possibly reconstruct what the DNA is supposed to look like. Then it's a matter of, can I find a suitable surrogate to generate the egg? And once I've got the egg, then I can incubate the egg external, outside of a body, and perhaps rebirth
what would
a dodo.
be, in our last minute, what would be a suitable surrogate?
That's the big question, because dodos are basically modified pigeons. And we don't have pigeons that are that big that could generate an egg that size. So what they're looking at is some of the older, the rheas or the ostriches, some of those bigger birds. It's much more likely, even from the dodo, to do the passenger pigeon, because it's a pigeon. I can use another pigeon that is closely related. We know what that pigeon is. It is still around. We might be able to use that as a surrogate.
And most of us couldn't tell the difference between a regular pigeon and a passenger pigeon.
Yeah, birders would. You probably wouldn't.
Okay, well, we're down to our last 20 seconds or so. Dr. Joel Brant, thank you so much. How long you been at McMurry?
About, just finished my 13th year.
Wow. Getting old.
I am getting old. It's kind of sad. I was all dark-haired when I got here.
Yeah. You were here before DNA, right?
No.
No, not at all. Anyway, thanks so much for listening. It's been a great show. Really appreciate your paying attention. And class dismissed.